Okay. SIG Node meeting, as I said, it's January 5th, 2021. So yeah, we didn't do so bad during the holiday season. We skipped a few meetings, but still, like we have negative, like we have less PRs than we had before holiday. So people were approving and closing some. Many PRs were closed by by people, not by automation. That is good. There are still some rotten PRs, but I didn't have a chance to look at all of them and check if something rot that we didn't want to rot. And I wanted to show this diagram. There is a link if you want to have bigger scale. Nobody's sharing this document, but like in the document, there is a link with a dashboard on open PRs in SIG Node. And you can notice that last year we clearly turned the wave around. So before that, we only grew on PR count, and now we slowly decreasing PR count. Every release we have smaller and smaller baseline for open PRs. So I want to thank everybody who actually participate and helping to move this. I have a next item as well. If you have any questions for this item, please let me know. No questions? Okay, so next one is we did some triaging end of last year for CI/SIG group, CI subgroup, and there is a few pull requests that are LGTM'd by the group but not approved. So we ask this group to anybody who has approval rights, please take a look and try to help us to move it forward.
I can take a look today.
Thank you, Mrinal. And lastly, I started this migration to Docker Shim, migration out of Docker Shim documentation. There is a place in Kubernetes IO, and I propose to start putting documentation around and something that will help guide customers how to do migration. We identified a few areas where customers may need help. Some of them like monitoring and security agents that may not work when Docker Shim will be deprecated with a switch from Docker Shim. Other areas like how to detect that they've been using Docker Shim at all. So I started this documentation. Please review and contribute. Help really appreciate it here. I think this year, if you deprecate Docker Shim this year or like remove it, at least it will be a big accomplishment. If not, we will need to be as close to this point as possible. Now, Karan.
Hi, sorry, I didn't think my number would come so soon. Sweet, Happy New Year, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Karan from Google. I work with Sergey. We are starting to look into swap support. And as part of that, last quarter, I spent some time just digging into what some of the blockers for it will be, both technical and in terms of design itself. And I put some thoughts in a doc that's linked to in the agenda. It's like 3 pages. It's not too large.
You make sure I think, because I tried clicking on it and I got an access denied.
Oh my God, 1 second. Okay, I know why. Sorry about that. I will share. I think, okay, you should have access now. I think based on what I've seen, supporting swap is too broad of an ask for us to make significant progress on, or impactful progress on anyways. And so I think even in a couple of bugs, there's a lot of use cases that are being discussed, but I think it would be prudent for us to narrow it down to a few that we think we can make progress on quickly. So I have my own opinions, as you can expect, but I think if there's a few people who would like to collaborate on that, and maybe for 121 scope, or in 121 timeline, if we can have a KEP with high-level design, use cases we want to tackle, and what kind of exact problems we want to solve. That would be great. I mean, or if that's not a good way to approach it, I'm still open to options there.
So I started looking at this right before sort of heading into the holiday break. And I guess it's kind of precipitous because I spent most of my time working on the use cases. So I have a doc put together of a bunch of use cases documented on like the public issue, sort of classified by type, as well as from some other conversations that I've had, which should help guide some of the implementation. It looks like you've looked at most of the challenges in terms of the implementation. So potentially very complementary. I have not yet had a chance to like throw that into a public doc. Mostly I was seeking feedback on that. And also everybody's on vacation. So I think it would make sense for us to put together some sort of like SIG public doc, get feedback on it. As far as timelines go, like I think that like 121 alpha at this point is probably like pretty aggressive, but maybe like 122 alpha. So hopefully getting like the initial cap done this release.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think 121, we should know what we want to do by 122. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
this is just one of those things that touches so many things. Sorry, go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, a big +1 on the two of you getting together. I think the way Alana phrased it is really well. Like on the Red Hat side, we've been having a lot of use cases where swap has been coming up as potentially useful. Like if you're running smaller Kubernetes deployments outside of a cloud context, if you're using things like KubeVirt, there's a lot of community ecosystem projects around Kube where maybe some of the more ideological positions we had taken in Kubernetes when we assumed the presence of permanent elastic infrastructure was always present, are not always holding now for where Kube is being placed. And so big +1 on that. I think the timeline that Alana raised is good. What I'm wondering is anyone on the call from any particular user community right now that would benefit from swap that wanted to help as well. I know we had KubeVirt members join previously, but maybe if we could pair up with a set of instead of platform providers, but more like platform consumers to help enrich that use case, that would be good. I was trying to think back to on the document if there are particular databases, for example, the other communities we can reach out to. But I guess, Alana, I haven't seen your latest doc, so maybe you have that captured and that's awesome.
Yeah, I do have a list of some folks who've indicated interest, both like for contributing like on the issue as well as people who I think indicated interest in one of the previous meetings. Yeah, I don't want to like, dox people and put their contact info in like a public thing without asking them first. But I'll start reaching out to people as we work on this and hopefully get together a group and get people's feedback and make sure that everybody's kind of on board. I know with this sort of thing, there's always like you gotta find the balance between like yak shaving and like finding like sort of appropriate scope for like an MVP that's actually going to be helpful. So I think having as many people involved in those conversations as possible, sort of coming to some sort of consensus on that and then going ahead and figuring out what that sort of initial implementation looks like. That would be my plan.
Right, and at least on the GKE side, we have a couple of big customers who are willing to be design partners in it. So I'm sure they'll be happy to chime in and provide some of the use cases as well. But Alana, I'm assuming you're from Red Hat as well? Okay.
Yes, I'm currently at Red Hat.
Okay. I think, yeah, I can also post in Slack and see if there's more interest in joining this, but whenever your doc is ready to be shared, I can upstream some of stuff from my doc in it.
Great, yeah, I can try to get that out, like a draft out today. So I'll send that to I can send it to both like the node mailing list and also to Kubernetes dev to try to make people aware that this is happening and that this is something we're thinking about for 122.
right now. Actually, I'm curious. I should have had this to memory, but I don't. What changed between C group V1 and V2 on anything related to memory swap accounting?
I think the big one is you can set memory low and memory high. So it just has finer grained support for setting memory swaps. I think in V1, again, I don't know the details exactly. This is just based on cursory reading. In V1, you only set a upper bound.
Yeah, so I know in V1 you can only set the upper bound, but there was also the ability to set memory and then mem plus swap as a separate value.
Right.
I didn't know if Renault or maybe Giuseppe's on, if they had to memory what was in V2 or what might exist in OCI today with respect to swap.
So OCI supports all the knobs, Derek, as far as I know. I'll have to check, but I think you're right. I'm just looking, like in V2, I think they took away the ability to separately specify it. I'm pulling that up.
I just want to make sure that we identify any V1 versus V2 behavioral difference we might have, and then if there was an OCI change.
I guess like the big thing would be, do we want to support just V1 or do we want to support both V1 and V2?
Yeah, so we already had work started to have kubelet tolerate V2 now that had merged, and so my bias would be to, plan for the future where we accept that V2 is going to be the way things go forward, and not like do something that stops V2 from being possible.
Right. I guess like this is something, right. But this is something we can, I think this would be a good thing to discuss in the scoping doc, because I have a slightly different perspective on that.
Yeah, completely fair. Okay, awesome.
Great. I will, as soon as I have a doc up, I'll link it in the meeting notes, and I'll also send an email.
Okay, Francesco then.
Okay. It's me. Hello. So Happy New Year. I will be very, very quick. So basically, we have this pod resource API extension we are proposing. We have a cap already approved for the topology we're scheduling to enable that. Basically, this is the overarching goal. So the pod resources changes are pretty much simple in itself. I mean, the cap was mostly uneventful. Implementation had already quite a lot of reviews. Thanks to all reviewers. And just a little reminder that we're really aiming to get this merged in 1.21. So please have a look and let's move forward. Thanks.
Do we know if Renault is able to still shepherd primary review on this, or do we need any other approver to help? Have you had a conversation with him?
I didn't. I got reviews from, sorry, I misheard probably. Renaud, yes, I got in touch with him, but last year, not in 2021. So I'll ping him.
Okay, I'll take a look as well. I just want to make sure that.
He gave, looks good to me not too long ago. Then we had other reviews, which I addressed, more comments. So I will ping him again this week.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool. I put something on the agenda for the status of the SIG's caps. I don't know if we have any other topics or if we want to jump into that.
I think it's a good transition because pod resources is a cap, and it's likely on this list, and we need to understand whether it's scheduled for 121 or not.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I try to do with SIG instrumentation since I've become a chair of the SIG was make sure kind of at the beginning of every release cycle to go through all of like, what are our caps? What are we planning on doing this release? What are we bumping to next release and that kind of thing. And the SIG Node list is quite long. There's, I think, 54 open issues in the enhancements repo. And of those, the vast majority are not tracked. 37 are not tracked. So I was wondering, is there like a plan to tackle this? Is anybody currently assigned like basically like why are things the way they are? And is there like a task force for like, okay, these are the 121 things, these are maybe the 122 things, or is this just kind of organically gotten in this state?
Obviously, there's a number of features that are in flight or have been in flight. I'm trying to look through this list to see if there are explicit ones that we hadn't talked through.
One of the things that's a bit special about SIG Node, I mean, like one of the things that's open here, for example, is like issue number 5, pod security policy, which is currently untracked. And so like.
Yeah, so that was, if I'm not mistaken, so that's a good example of like things that we should probably split between exclusively SIG Node versus having another SIG label. So SIGAuth actually did the deprecation of pod security policy right before the holiday period. So at least that one, its fate is at least clear now in the Cube community. I'm not sure if you looked at others that might be spanning SIGs. But yeah, it's probably good to clear through the less remaining, particularly older ones, to see if they've been cleared out or not. We did a
lot
similar
of stuff
thing
on here from like 2016 and 2017 and stuff that's just not kind of sat since then. And a number of them have like life cycle stale set on them. But I don't know if that necessarily means that they're actually stale. I think it's just one of those, the scope of Node is so large, and I don't know that people have necessarily had the bandwidth to even look into this stuff. So
no, so one of the things I had started to do a little bit in 120, I didn't look at the enhancements issues list because that was actually not even as accurate as we would have wanted relative to the feature gates. And so I just pasted a link there, which was my first attempt to try to track some of this to push for forward progress. We did make a lot of progress on a number of these items, and maybe what we could do as a next step is like update this to say, is there actually a tracking enhancement issue or not? And where we had some consensus on this, maybe close out the issue. But I think even in this doc, there were like 30 odd feature gates that were in various states of work. And we did make a fair bit of progress last release, pushing a number of them forward. So, but in general, I think Alana, as a SIG, we're all open to like learning on maybe things that worked well in instrumentation that you want to help bring.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's hard to, you know, for example, compare like instrumentation with Node, because instrumentation has what, like I think 8 keps or something, and this is like, you know, orders of magnitude larger. So in terms of just like the scope in terms of time and the complexity of the features, it's much larger. I'm not sure actually if there are like other SIGs working on things that are like similar in scope, like maybe API machinery. So I can go look into that kind of thing, and I can also sync with the enhancements folks and see what they've been doing in terms of tracking for the SIG Node stuff, because I'm sure that they've spent a bunch of time on that as well.
Yeah, so I think even looking at the doc here and then what you have there, like some of the ones like sys controls going out of beta to GA, that's one of those oldest issues. I think it's just a matter of like us committing as a group to maybe pick the next 3 to 5 items that we all feel comfortable moving forward. Whereas some got in kind of a stasis once they reached a beta state. I'm not even sure if this list was accurate with everything that we did push forward in 120, but I think anything that was labeled green, I think, was this you, Sergey, who had gone and updated?
Yeah, I've been updating it. Like on the top of the document, I put some example how to GA feature, and then I try to map it to enhancement whenever I looked at it. So most of greens are done, but then I realized that the release team is doing the same. So release team is also tracking all the documentation issues, all the like they have a spreadsheet for that. So maybe what this document helped a lot with is to identify which areas we want to work on and get an owner for this area. So somebody driving it forward. And once this this identified is great, and then maybe we also need to look at what is critically dangerous, like maybe something that needs urgent access and nobody looking at that. So maybe just reviewing all the caps may help to identify those.
Thanks for brought this up, and I just quickly look through, and I think at least we can have the small goal and review those like the lot tracked stuff, make sure, and what's the plan, move to the next stage. At least we understand what it is not tracked right now. So I think last release and Derek drive initiate the effort and try to move a lot of like the from the one stage pre-GA stage to the next stage. So there's a lot of more actually make progress, but it's not as progress what we are originally expected. And so maybe this time, this quarter, and we can start to look at like at least we see the more actively to close some stealth issues, stealth cap. I think we are not put effort that because to close those stealth effort actually also involve a lot of effort. And so because every cap came here actually do have use cases, we do understand. But a lot of change could be like the specific change for the certain use cases. And there's no good way to come up or agree or reach a consensus on the generic solution so far yet. So that's why we are, after a while, we can like the organic native is organically grow and have some like the solution. And then we hopefully like the couple solution come up for the concrete use cases, then we can evolve into the generic solution. So maybe now is the time to look into those kind of things to see can we consolidate some of those and close some of those things and deprecate some special support to clean our code. So that's maybe is the right time to do.
Spring cleaning before spring.
Best timing.
Sprint release also, right timing.
Okay, I can take an action to at least what I'm going to plan on doing is following up with the enhancements team, seeing like the work that they did in the last release, and then maybe trying to put together something for like, this is the status of all these 54 things, and let's see, you know, who owns them and who to follow up on them and next sort of steps, so we can at least try to get this disentangled.
Cool, that's great. We can start from there.
Okay, I will do that. Thanks, Don.
Thanks.
So we out of topics. It's a short meeting today.
Yeah, that's all for today. Any other topic? If without topic, I think we can get back off the half hour for everyone. And that's it for today.
Thanks, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy New Year, my folks.